Hi, everybody. Today is Friday, January the 24th, 2020. We're 2 days later than usual, but I was in transit on Wednesday. Thanks, Rudy, for joining us again tonight. You have a great lineup. You want to tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so we got some fun topics. We're going to talk a little bit about voodoo, or ESP and psychic abilities, and some of the things people have been some interesting conversations on the Discord. So we're going to go into some of those topics in a little bit more detail. And that's for those new people here. That's what we do on the psychic meetups is we'll either take guests or we'll look at things that have been discussed on Discord and explore those a little bit more deeply with Sam. And then we'll get to your questions. So that's the plan.
It's nice to see everybody here. So let's get started with your subject matter there. I think it's awesome that you've put that together, and I'm really looking forward to it because I learn a lot of stuff from this as well.
So let's jump into the topics. The first one I want to cover, the title is Voodoo, Hoodoo, Magic Spells, and the Dark Arts. So the topic of voodoo came up, I think it was last week with Jay Huang and Quadruple Tree. I think Jay Huang had a reading, and he said that someone had mentioned that someone had done voodoo on him, or that's what the psychic supposedly had told him. And, when we think about voodoo, it's whether it's voodoo, we tend to have a negative connotation to it. Voodoo, remember the evil eye? I think of like Gilligan's Islands, all these shows where they kind of make fun of, like the voodoo doll, evil eye, casting spells. And it's almost, anything that's probably, not a Christian religion has always been cast in that light. But are spells or hexes and these voodoo types of rituals, can they harm people? Can they be put on people and cause them to have bad luck and bad things happen to them?
Yes. Yeah, that you can even be killed.
Oh, wow. So it is that powerful. And can they be cast on one human by another, or does it mean like a human has to invoke a familiar spirit or a negative entity to help make that happen?
When you do stuff like that, you're using familiar spirits.
Okay. So you're getting involved in the dark side. It's, what we're doing is we're engaging with that other side, opening ourselves up and trying to cause things to happen. Okay. Interesting. Now, can spells be used for both good and evil? For example, let's say, someone, is has an inclination towards pedophilia. Can you cast a spell on them to make them not want to do that kind of stuff? Can you do it? Does it work both ways?
You can do, I call it, somebody just clear audibly said to me, a mind blocker.
Oh, okay.
I guess that's what they call it, a mind blocker. Here's the thing, right? People are human, and unless somebody is called to do something, and this is where why I had to ask so many times about, are you sure about cryptos? Isn't it gambling? Isn't it? Because, I know that these sort of things you have to be specially called to do. And the problem with a lot of people who get into conjuring, oh, I'm a white witch. And it's like, well, yeah, but you'll do that, but then something will happen and then you'll justify. And that's how it starts, right? Yeah. You justify. There's very few people who can handle superhuman abilities. I mean, there's been a lot of even mediums who they don't necessarily lose their second sight, but they certainly they don't have the highest level of abilities anymore because they start turning to familiar spirits. They start wishing harm and bad things, to maybe another medium who does better than them. They maybe start abusing drugs and alcohol, thinking that they're immune from their, mind being degraded. And then you can sort of see like this downhill. And I described to the people when we were at the meetup in Houston, I got somebody to sort of stand next to me, right? And I said, just stand here to my side. I said, you are the world. I said, this is where I'm supposed to be looking. I said, if I turn to you and I turn to the world, then my gift is going to be more serving the world. When I am turned like this, I'm serving humanity, because then I'm able to get the information and tell people what it is that they need, not what they want. Where when you're turning to the world, you're doing what they want. You're giving them what they want. And as I said, I mean, my first clue that I was doing the right thing is, I became very unpopular on YouTube with a lot of cryptocurrency people, with a lot of woo-woo people, very unpopular, to the point that many of them even say that I'm not a psychic medium. So I just laugh. I'm like, Okay.
Well, yeah, and as we get more into this, I'm sure as our worlds expand, we're going to encounter more people that are psychic. And you do meet people that are, they dabble in, like you said, the white witch. Oh, I can show you how to cast spells because you want to do it for a good reason. And it goes back to, even I've seen that. And use your discernment. Does it feel right to you that you should be doing this? And really trust that because, like you said, if you're not called to do it, you might not want to just start playing with that kind of stuff, right? It's like playing with fire.
I agree more so with people who are, I know people who are like, I am just so fascinated by this. That's what they tell me. This is so fascinating. I find it so interesting. But the thing is that they don't have any second sight at all. They don't have any psychic abilities, and they just have I shouldn't say just, I mean, intuition that can be life-saving, right? And a lot of people have intuition and it is needed. And they get sucked into the abilities because the familiar spirits will respond, right? The people on the other side will not participate because they're like, well, no, you're not one of ours that we have to instruct. You're somebody who's trying to conjure. So it has to come from this direction. If it's coming from this direction, then it's not so good. And even Muant noticed that with me and my accuracy, that stuff would just come out in the blab. Right. And when I would try to conjure stuff and try to get an exact answer, sometimes I would be right, but I certainly didn't have the accuracy level that I would have just, in these random blabs that I do every time we're together.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And if someone does put this upon you, are you able to clear it yourself where, if you think of, you're just going to clear the energy around you and any attachments you have, are we able to do that if we believe we have the power, or do you need some special help to get rid of some of those things sometimes?
Well, you just have to get a couple of other people together and you just have to let them know and say, this lady who, practices black magic, I've heard that she's, put something on me.
All right. Well, great. That was very interesting. Next, I want to talk about ESP and psychic abilities and kind of, are they one and the same? So this goes back to, I think Jan.24th wrote about being in psychic class and experiencing a smell. Someone, I think it was like the smell of old wine. And White Wing, seems to be a wealth of knowledge out there, always on Discord, writes, as you know, when psychics sense things outside the normal range of our five senses, it's called ESP, or extrasensory perception. And the abilities are called the clairs. In fact, I'm going to put in the chat all the clairs right there. I found that on the website. I think that's all of them. But he says, so, he kind of explains clairvoyance, clairaudience. But my question is ESP the same thing as being psychic, or does being psychic mean you have like multiple ESPs, I guess, multiple clairs?
Okay, so you can have one or all or some or all of the clairs if you are a psychic medium.
Okay.
If you are psychic, think about it this way. It's more like you're able to grab information from the ethos. And, but it's just a word or two. It's an idea. But you won't hear stuff.
Right.
Right. You normally, if you smell something like somebody who has no abilities, but is in a place that's, let's say, haunted, they can like smell stuff, see stuff. Like, so this is separate, right? Okay. Because, people will report smelling, I could smell my grandfather's cologne. And that's how the grandfather, just like, I mean, yeah, I'm a medium, but I didn't connect being a medium with hearing my grandfather's voice when I was sitting in, he had long since passed, and I was sitting in his bedroom. My Nana was still alive, and she would be moving out soon because somebody was buying the building and they were going to renovate it. So none of this stuff was going to be here. And I remember I was sitting in the bedroom and I heard his voice over by the wardrobe where he normally in the morning, he would be putting his aftershave on. And I heard, hi, right in his, and he had a very distinct sort of a scratchy voice. And I knew that it was him. Now, I believe I heard that because I'm a medium and I can hear stuff like that on a regular basis. But that honestly could happen to anybody. right?
Okay.
So it depends on how often it's happening to you. If it's, once in a while here and there that it happens to you, you 10 years ago, you were in this, this old place for a tour and you saw something out of the corner of your eye, or you actually saw a ghost straight on. That doesn't mean that that you have abilities, right? So humans all have the ability to have this. So it all works on different levels for sure. The tasting, that there's different types of gifts. So the easiest one for me to describe is, of course, being a medium. So you're more likely to see, you're more likely to hear, you're more likely to smell them. And then the knowing part, the knowings, I have to say that has to do more with being psychic or being psychic medium, a knowing.
Okay. So these are all things that everybody can experience at times. Mediums are probably going to have most of these, if not all of them. And then if you're psychic, you might just kind of have the knowing part of it, or maybe one of the others, right?
Right.
Because we always want to classify stuff. And I like the way you've had it where most humans we're all intuitive. Some are psychic. And if you're psychic, you're also intuitive. And if you're a medium, you're psychic, and you have all those things, right?
Yeah. And then there's gifts that, I can't even really describe. I don't know that much about it, but I've been told that there's people in our group or who are coming to our group who have gifts and abilities that I do not have. But they're going to the people on the other side are going to tell me about it so that I can still be a teacher. And that excited me because there's a lot I don't know. And I've been learning so much because you guys just throw the questions at me, and so much I just have no idea about. I didn't even know about it. I'd never thought about it. And then all I do is I just stop and I'm like, what's the answer? And then they tell me, and then I tell you guys. And sometimes they give me this whole crazy story. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I'm learning so much.
Well, and you're right. There's so many unique gifts that we can't almost label all of them. And then the way people express their gifts. So even if you have clairaudience or whatever, it might express differently in certain people. And it's just, it's almost, you can't label everything in a certain box. But a plug for Rudy's Psychic Meetup. If you do have a unique gift and you want to share with the group, we'd love to hear it. And Sam can kind of give you your thoughts if you want to come on the show. So just send me a message. But now when we talk about remote viewing, and the reason I put this topic on is because also someone had posted a video about remote viewing and how people will teach remote viewing, this kind of an extrasensory perception that supposedly everybody has the ability to perceive, non-local consciousness. And so it's back to I don't know, remote viewing isn't really what's the vision? Clairvoyance, right? That's almost something different.
No, and I don't believe that everyone can do it.
Okay.
Right. I know that, and like I said, it might make me very unpopular. I don't feel there's anything wrong with them teaching it, because some people will discover a gift within themselves by just stumbling upon this and then moving on to, hey, they could end up being a medium, right? And the ones who would be just really bang on or really good with remote viewing would be people who are mediums, because you can't hide anything from them, right? But I think that sometimes it's a little bit too much to put that on people, and then sometimes they feel like a failure. And it was just like when I was talking about, I like how, Debbie teaches people, how to open their third eye, right? Because, and I think she charges $25 for it. And I'm like, well, most people, you will never have a third eye to open. It will never open for you because you just don't have that ability. That's not your gift. But if it's let's say, 1 in every 50 who throw in their $25 and then they learn it. And the other thing too is that even if you're taking that class, you may not be opening a third eye, but you're still learning something from it. I would take exception if someone was charging $2,500 and making guarantees. Do you know what I mean? But a $25 class to learn more about spiritual things, and then you could end up being one of the people who has a third eye, and oh, look, now all of a sudden you're getting pictures and flashes, and isn't that exciting? And it was from stumbling on that class. And, so I agree with that people will discover their gifts. I just do not agree with saying, everybody can be psychic. I mean, that's not true. And I think that you hurt people because you make them feel like they're doing something wrong. And I felt like that was the first thing that the people on the other side, I bring that up only because somebody asked me about that. And I just said, make sure, like, if you've taken one of these classes and you didn't get your third eye open and start getting pictures and flashes, it's not because you're doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
And
ideally, most people that maybe have an ability, you're going to be drawn to one of these things to try to express your gift in one way or another. So that's probably, that's part of it too, is if you're going to go the extra steps and take the class and try, there's probably a better chance you actually have something to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people are like drawn to this kind of stuff because they do have abilities of some kind, and they just really shouldn't be disappointed if, oh, no third eye open for me. I must have been doing something wrong, and they're beating themselves up and feeling bad about it. And it's like, no, like, don't worry about it. I'm sure you learned something from it and just move on. You'll figure something else out. Even the deep breathing exercises. I mean, that's great for you.
Well, and like, I know Chuck V just came off of his fast, and I had an experience where after fasting and doing one of these cleanses, it really opened me up. And I think, is that a way where if you do that fasting and clear all the toxins out of your body, that you can really then open up your gifts if you have them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do feel that, one of the ways that I did see that there was a medium in Britain, and she was quite obese for quite a while. Like, you can look at old YouTube things of her. And I mean, I know for sure she was a medium. This is how one of the things that I used to do to sort of sharpen my gift was I would watch other like real mediums performing. But I saw that she was quite obese, and I thought, that's just one of the traps that the negative entities try to suck you into, because you are somebody who can relieve so much anxiety. You can be so helpful. Like, one medium, what they can do for the world is unbelievable. So it's just like they have the hounds of hell after them, chasing them, trying to be negative. And it's like, oh, how can we get this medium? Oh, well, we'll just make her, drink a lot, right? We'll get her into that. We'll find her, oh, how can we get, this medium will, food, right? We'll get her into food. And I'm happy to say that she did actually end up losing a whole bunch of weight. She looked completely different by the end of the YouTube videos. I think she had lost, I don't know, it looked to me like 150 pounds. Wow. So when I say like really obese, I'm not talking about, the little bit of junk in the trunk that some of us all have, right? It comes with aging. We live in a Western society. We're not out plowing the field anymore. I cannot express how important it is to, stay a reasonable weight, eat healthy food, and keep your mind clear. Like, don't hang around with like bad and negative people. Hang out with us on the Discord where we support and love you.
That's right. We're a good group. All right. Well, I'll do one more topic, and then we'll go to the questions. We only have 24 tonight, so it's not too packed. So this next topic is called Sam Jam Astral Meetups. So Sunshine Girl mentioned on the Discord that she'd been trying to go visit other Sam Jammers while she was meditating. And I know we've talked about, maybe doing things while you sleep. And last week, Linda Lumpkin, I think that's on Discord, said she had a wonderful experience after she crawled into bed and said her prayers. She had a small ball of energy visited, and she said she felt it was like someone from this group. And she said, I could see the energy ball even through my eyes, even though my eyes were closed. I could feel the energy. It was the most peaceful, loving energy. I just froze in the enjoyment. So, Sam, do you think that was Sunshine Girl that visited Linda Lumpkin?
Well, if the timing fits, I wrote down, I was like, oh, I was asleep at that time when she gave the time. I was like, that could have been me, because people have written me in the past year and they've said, you talked to me, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I would have been asleep at that time too. That person's in around, the time zone's only a few hours different. And yeah.
Is it possible to visit people when you're sleeping, or like, can you set that intention before you go to bed and go do things?
Yeah, absolutely. You can set that intention, because the ethos is the realms are that we pass through. There's no time or space.
Okay.
So it's easier to do that when we're in a sleep environment. I wouldn't necessarily purposely try to leave my body.
Mhm.
And it's only because I have a concern about things trying to get in while I'm not here
Yeah.
guarding it. That's my only thing, right? And I don't know if that's something that the people on the other side have said to me, don't do that. And maybe it's only quote unquote dangerous for me and fine for other people who are not mediums with such an assignment. But I can see that they easily look for the negative entities, easily look for opportunities to, and I mean, I don't want to sound like a victim here, but I would say that the activity has increased tenfold in the last year since I've started working with all of you guys. So I'm like, oh, yippee, I'm doing something right, because boy, are they ever pissed.
Yeah, you have to be on guard all the time. Well, and it was interesting that Sunshine Gorilla did that, because I had an experience a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't put this on Discord. But I woke up at probably about 3 or 4 a.m. and I was laying on my side, and I felt this sensation. And what I liken it to is if someone had a spoonful of honey and dripped it on you, but it was like this energy that kind of went down into my side. It dispersed in an uneven pattern, and I got this kind of tingling, buzzing, this really pleasant sensation. And I woke up and I told my wife about it, and she said, oh yeah, before we went to bed, I set my intention to go work on you while I was sleeping. Now, we don't know if that was her or not, but it was an interesting coincidence. And I'd never felt, it was just like, boom, right here in the side. And it was just the weirdest sensation, but really cool.
It probably was. I believe that it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't, but it was funny because she didn't tell me that she did that until after I told her the story. We would have never known.
Yeah. Well, when Linda was talking about the energy ball, I was like, oh, probably me. I make the rounds. Isn't that, I would like to think that I'm going around, I'm tucking y'all in.
Yeah. Well, Hummingbird, I think, has a question here that we'll get to that mentions that as well. So, all right, well, I'll save my one topic till next week. And then, let's get into the questions.
Yeah.
So, all right, the first one we says is from Lucy. Hello, Sam. Thanks for yet another live stream. You sure are busy lately. My question is about ascension. You live a balanced life between being a medium and a human. So many spiritual teachers tell us we must spend a lot of time meditating and we shouldn't drink alcohol, etc. Are we really meant to live like Zen masters? Are we all here to experience being humans with all its duality? What's the right balance in your opinion? Thanks.
Jeez, I'm in so much trouble if I'm supposed to live like a Zen master. And I think that a lot of times that's what people expect to hear from religious people, and they fall into line with that. And the other thing too is that I believe that because so many people have trouble with, how can I say, moderation, that sometimes it is better just to say, oh, no alcohol, no sex, no, nothing like that. You have to live like a Buddhist monk. But I don't agree with that. I do believe that we are here as humans to experience life. And I do think that you should enjoy yourself. You will never have me wagging my finger at you. The only time I'm going to wag my finger at you is that if you start eating way too much food and you get really fat, and then I see problems for you. And I'll be like your mom, because I'll see that heart attack coming, or I'll see that stroke, or I'll see that cancer in your stomach coming, or something that is going to take you out earlier than it should. And I want everybody to live a wonderful, happy life. And, I want to see people taking care of themselves, because, even if we have health issues and stuff, I mean, I knew that there was no tumor in my stomach, but because there had been something there and it was getting worse, I had to, be a responsible, person. I'm a wife and a mother as well as a medium. And even though I knew that there's no cancer waiting for me, I had to have that scoped down and have it looked at. And I even told her, I said, it's probably, if it's not an ulcer, it maybe is going to be one. I said, but that's good information for me to know, because then there's certain foods that I'll cut back on because I don't want to irritate my stomach. I don't want anything taking me out.
Yeah.
And that's why exercise is really important to me, and, keeping everything in moderation. But yeah, I enjoy my life, and I encourage everybody here to enjoy your life as well, but not to the point that it ever hurts you though.
Well, I say embrace your humanity. So, Lucy, I took up hunting a couple of years ago, and I thought, we're capable of so much, of our thought and the spiritual, but also living as a human. You're an animal and you need to feed yourself, and that is part of that experience. So I'm not very good at it, but that's one of the reasons I took it up, is just to have that experience. So
yeah, and I don't have anything against killing an animal that you're going to consume. Right. I always say, I'm not against that, but don't leave it on the side of the road. Like, make sure you're taking it home, and that you're doing something with the parts, and that you're treating it right, because animals are here for us, and as meat for us. And I mean, now we handle things differently, and a lot of people have climbed onto their high horse and they like to shake their fingers, but it's like, didn't you just come from McDonald's? Like, where do you think that burger came from? Oh, well, that's different. No, it's not. It's not any different than someone going out there with their rifle and then shooting, a deer and having venison. Yeah. What's the difference if you go out and you're fishing? Like, but make sure that you consume that fish. Like, don't waste what you've taken, right? That's my attitude on it, is that, I'm not against that, but you have to have the right attitude about it.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. Thanks, Sam. Cryptoponymous writes, "Hey guys, Sam, I recall you saying that our life paths are generally subject to free will, though there are several predetermined nexus points that we're fated to reach along the way. Now, is it possible that certain choices we make could be drastic enough to actually alter what nexus points lie ahead? I mean, doesn't it lessen the importance of life's decision if our ability to hit every nexus point as planned remains unaffected by them? Thanks."
Right. And see, this is where our human minds have a hard time with this. And I had to explain this to somebody when they told me. I was like, well, did that medium ever tell you anything that was true? Like, ever? Like, did you give it enough time for us to, when did you have your reading with them? A couple of years ago? Okay, well, they should have told you some things maybe that you've done in the past, some things about you or people around you. Like, they should be able to key in on things. And then when they give you stuff in the future, and then if it doesn't come true, I always say, well, that's the medium's mistake. Like, if I tell you something and then 5 years goes by and it was something that would have had to have come true within that period of time, because some people don't give it a chance to come true yet. Like, somebody wrote me and they were all like, well, listen, it hasn't come true. And I'm just like, I'm thinking, I've been doing readings for less than a year. So, and then I asked them, I said, do you have like a bald head? And they're just like, yes, mostly bald, like where they just have the hair in the back. I said, well, I still see that somebody, is kissing you on your bald head, right? Because I was trying to remember who I did the reading with, but they didn't really give it a chance to come true. But my whole thing on that is that, yes, you have free choice and free will, but a medium will know what choices you made. It's like you're saying, oh, is it all predetermined? Well, because there's no past, present, or future on the other side. We already know what happened, and we can point out these were the nexus points that no matter what you did in between there, you ended up coming back to this, and you can see it like almost magically happening. But yes, you have free will, but as a medium, I already know which path you're going to choose. And that's why sometimes, and you've heard me say this before, I don't bother telling people some things because I knew that they were not going to listen to me.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. Next question. Hello, Sam and Rudy. When aliens visit, do they always arrive in their current era, or do they view the Earth in the early days with erupting volcanoes and boiling seas, move to the age of dinosaurs, and perhaps travel to our future like space tourists? Raymond.
So that stuff is all in the past, and you can't go to the past. Okay. The only time that they can come into is now. They can't go back to dinosaurs, because the dinosaurs the past is here in our realm, and it's already past.
Okay. So if you come into this realm, you get what's happening now. You can't move around. Okay.
Right.
Makes sense. All right. Leo Potato says, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. My friend's niece has Arcadia syndrome. She is about 20 now and has 40 plus seizures every day. She self-harms and things are getting worse. There is no way of knowing what brain age she is functioning at. Her vocabulary consists of 2 words. Why do some people come here in a body that is totally unable to function? We have assisted suicide in Canada, but she doesn't qualify because she's not mentally capable. How much longer do you see this poor kid being trapped in her present body? Thanks.
Oh, not for too much longer. So sorry about that. Yeah, the 40 seizures. Oh my goodness. And you know what? This is just part of the human experience in the same way that I described that, some of us will, be killed in accidents because of gravity. This is just the world, like the world, the diseases. We live in our human body, and our human body can be, defective. It can be defective even before we're born. It can become defective afterwards. If you're in a fiery car accident, and you got there was a guy who was in a house fire and he survived. His brother was killed, but he survived, but he lives in a rubber suit, and they had to remove both of his legs down to the, one leg is short, like he has stumps for legs, and he's got only one full arm. And he lives in a rubber suit. He was burned so badly. This guy I went to school with. And so he's lived over 30 years like this. And actually, no, it wasn't a house fire. It was a fiery car accident.
Okay.
That they were drinking and driving, their car flipped and his brother was killed. And a couple of them were killed, and he survived, like barely. And so these things can happen. And, life here is all about not just us, but the people around us. So I always say that when we have somebody who's disabled, I say, well, like they were sent here for us, because how are you going to treat them? Are you going to look after them? Are you going to treat them right? Or are you going to be abusive?
Well, and there's, the things that can happen, the kind of the roll of the dice. And there's also, is it possible that people have agreements before they come down to learn lessons that, okay, I'm going to care for somebody with a disability, but you don't know what kind of disability you're going to get or how severe it might be, right? Is that possible?
I think that before we come down here, we are just waiting in line, and we don't really know what we're headed into.
Okay.
I know that people have made up these stories about, oh yeah, and then you make this plan and you have these agreements, and I'm just like, what are you talking about? You don't know squat. You cross over, you have your end of life review, and then you realize that you did a sucky job, and you look forward to coming back again because now you're more advanced, right? Or maybe you did get to learn to move up a level. Yay, I moved up a level, right? So and then you come back down here to earth again, maybe like 70 years later. You hang out, you spend some time in classes, you watch your family and your tribe who are still down here. No, don't do that. Oh, you did it.
So it's more like parachuting into Normandy on D-Day, where maybe your plane explodes, maybe you land in a place where there's no enemies, maybe you land in the thick of it. You don't know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah. And it's just like, Kylie is saying, so nothing is planned. And it's like, well, Source has a plan, but you don't know what it is because you're not supposed to punt the ball. Like you're supposed to just, and that's why you have amnesia when you come here. It's a little bit unfair that I don't have that amnesia. Like that's completely unfair. But it's also unfair that I've got like these negative entities that are flying around and come down and peck me on geez, get away from me. What do you do? That's unfair too. So we all have our stuff that we have going on. So, but anyways, if you knew, then you could cheat. And that's no good. You want to make sure that when you get to the other side, you hear, well done, good and faithful servant, thumbs up for you. You did a few things there. We were a little bit concerned for a while, but then you turned it around and here you are. And yeah, that wasn't really a good way to go, but that's okay because nobody's getting out of the world alive.
All right. Chuck V writes, I've heard that bodily trauma from prior lives may sometimes produce birthmarks or other physical manifestations on the body in this incarnation. Yeah. Sam, since you remember your prior life ending with violence, do you have any of these marks that you're aware of? Thanks.
I do not, but I do agree that you can have things that marks that come from your previous life, or that, you could find a picture of somebody who you were, 300 years ago, and the same birthmark has followed you. It's almost like, I know for sure that God has a sense of humor. Source has a sense of humor. Not only because I was picked as a medium, I'm like, oh, you must have a sense of ha ha, picking me as a medium. Crypto Flirtian said, so it's not true that we choose our parents, have contracts we agree to, etc. No, that's just somebody, somebody made that up. There's no way they could know that.
Interesting. All right. Jaco writes, hello, Sam and Rudy. Göbekli Tepe is a temple megalithic construction that was uncovered in Turkey. The site was intentionally buried at least 10,000 years ago. Do you get anything on why it was intentionally buried? Did they anticipate a natural disaster or catastrophic event? Also, this and many other sites around the world have a carving of a man holding what looks like a purse or bag. This carving is always associated with the bringer of knowledge or civilization. What is the significance of the bag? Was it just a civilization passing out knowledge, or was the bag some sort of technologies? And he links to a picture, but it's and it's been on History Channel. Göbekli Tepe. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not.
I probably have, because I was trying to catch up. Was it on Ancient Aliens?
Yeah, I think it's been on there.
Yeah. Because since I met all you guys, I've been trying to watch Ancient Aliens. I've been like, oh my God, I knew nothing before. Like, I knew nothing woo woo. I was all business. So this last year or two has been quite eye opening, especially the last year with you guys. I've learned so much. And I do believe that some of these civilizations, that they were destroyed on purpose.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I don't know, they uncover so many sites that are outside of the timeline of what we've been taught in school. At some point you wonder if that'll all get, reset, or if we'll figure out what the truth really is.
Yes. And I mean, they do. I like what Crypto Flirtian says. She says, don't believe the History Channel, huh? I do agree that they do. Like the Ancient Aliens show, I just kind of smile a bit on a few things that they try to embellish, or they're making suppositions, or they have certain ideas. And really, I'm just like, yeah, you're making stuff up. Now it's, you were given that one page, and now you're trying to write a novel. But that's what humans try to do, because we want to understand everything. So as a medium, I try not to get sucked into that, because I know you guys are relying on me for, what's the truth? Inquiring minds want to know. We just want to know what the truth is.
Yep. All right. Thanks for that. May writes, hi, Sam and Rudy. Are we really affected by our past lives and karma, or do we start fresh at birth? Thank you.
You start fresh at birth. The karma thing is not what I think. Maybe I don't know if Dolores Cannon misunderstood it, or because she talked a lot about karma, but a lot of people say stuff like, oh, karma's going to get you, and it's like, well, I think the way Dolores Cannon described it, people are misunderstanding, because what the people on the other side tell me about karma is that there's things that you failed at when you were here before. And these are the things that you have to work at again when you come again. So it's like, okay, well, you understood that, you changed in that area, we're going to move you up a level. All right. Because, these other sort of lower vibrational things, you got through that. And now we're going to up your game now, because that is our job as beings. We love to learn. We want to expand. We want to be perfection. Mm-hmm. And the only way you can do that is by coming back here to Earth, where it's so challenging, because you have to spend, your day even just feeding and clothing yourself and surviving, and that takes up a good percentage of many people's time.
The next question comes from Never Give Up. Hi, Sam and Rudy. In the Bible, there's a story that Jesus, while on the cross, said to the person crucified next to him something like, I see you truly regret all your wrongdoings today. Or I see you truly regret all your wrongdoings. Today you'll be sitting by my side in heaven. If one was to follow the guidance from the story and would realize and regret all that he has done wrong, would it erase any karma? Once you realize what you've done wrong, would there be a need to repay it in the next life or not?
Okay, so it's not about repaying. It's about when you finish your life here, you cross over your end of life review. Hitler, I'm sure, lost 2 levels.
Well, and I think you've said before, the idea of karma, if you did something to someone, if you beat a child, you're going to feel that from the child's view when you cross the other side. It's more that you're going to experience it. It's not that you have to repay it, but you'll keep coming back until you finally figure it out.
Yeah, there's no denying what you've done.
Right.
On the other, because a lot of people, denial is just not a river in Egypt. They just live in denial.
Yeah.
They really do. They just live in denial and they figure, oh, I'm just not going to. We all know people like that. We have family members like that. Who just like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to turn this blinder. Just like, I love how Baggy says, Mom, you say like crazy stuff and then like comes true within minutes. And then everybody just kind of goes like in the family. They just ignore that they saw this happen. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
This is not my audience. This is not my tribe. Just pass some more chicken, please. Please pass the gravy. That's the best I'm going to do with them. But the karma thing is, this is what you overcame in this round in your life here. But these are the things that you just couldn't, you were still picking bad partners. You were being impatient. You were jumping on the first one and making a family with them instead of, holding true to yourself and, sticking with your checklist and, surrounding yourself with the right people. So maybe in this next life, the next time you have it, you're going to make some better choices so that you can have a better life. Right. So, these are the things that I mean when we talk about karma, is that you have to work out your karma. And so these are the things that you didn't figure out in the previous life that kept you back from your levels. Or if maybe you only leveled up, half a one or a full one when you wanted to level up two. And, it's just like, okay, I got to go back and deal, like, hopefully this time I'll be a more advanced being in my human body and will make better choices.
Okay. All right. Montel writes, hi, I was wondering, is there a way of learning how to make a correct decision when you're deciding on something? Or maybe life's a crapshoot and just do things willy-nilly. By the way, great job.
Oh, is life a crapshoot? Well, I mean, there are a few things. I wish I could find my list. I wrote down there's 5 things. There's what you are is your dealt cards.
Okay.
Like you say, you're dealt cards. So it has to do with, were you brought up in a 2-parent family?
Right.
Were your economics, like economically, did you come up with a wealthy family? Were you middle income or were you poor? How intelligent were you? Right? Because somebody who only has an IQ of 80 is going to have a very different experience in their life as somebody who has an IQ of 140. Like somebody like Jordan Peterson has an IQ of 140. Okay. Right? I would be more around just an average IQ person, not lower intelligence, just average. And, if I seem super intelligent, it's the people on the other side giving me info, right? And I've read a lot of books as well. So you can slightly increase your IQ, but, you can have a very happy life without, in fact, probably if you have 140 IQ, you're going to have just as many problems as somebody who has like an 80, because anything on the extreme ends, you suffer for it, right? So, it's the cards that are dealt to you when you're born, and then how you play those cards are what equals your life.
And you can learn to develop your intuition and don't operate from fear. I've been working a lot on that, and I find that you tend to make better decisions when you're in a calm state of mind. And it's tricky. It's not easy, but you can kind of work on listening to that intuition. So, all right. Tech Cowgirl writes, my husband wants to better understand the difference between how time appears to flow in a linear fashion for us, yet flow very differently on the other side. He wonders if that differential could allow people on either side to talk to their relatives' future selves. Could you detail out your understanding of how the flow of time around that communication piece and how it works?
Oh, well, so just going back to my IQ, I don't think I really understood that question.
It's like, yeah, how does time exist? How does everything that has already happened, but we still have to go in that linear flow? And the best example I've heard, I think, in the Mothman movie that Richard Gere, but they talk about, imagine if you're on a street corner, and you don't know that there's a truck barreling down, the way, but if you're up above, you're going to be able to see what's happening and what's probably going to happen. So maybe it's a matter of a different perspective and not necessarily, I don't know. That's a tough question.
I know I'm going, I don't know. I don't think I have an answer for that one. The time ones are really difficult for me to answer because, a lot of answers to more complicated questions like that, they're not easy to answer because our human mind has limitations. Like, I know that there's stuff that the people on the other side don't talk to me about because they know that I'm in the human form right now, and I will not be able to comprehend it. Certainly not well enough to be able to convey it. Yeah, I'll leave it. I'll have to leave.
Picture they could show you would make sense of it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Dale writes, there is that we know, and there is that we don't know. Is it fair to say that man can never resolve all the mysteries about our world, that learning something new can never end?
That is exactly true. And that's why we keep coming back again and again and again, because there's always new things to learn.
All right. Raymond writes, when people have near-death experiences and they have a life review, do they see future events as well, assuming that it is the life that they could be losing?
Oh, do they see, like how some people say that they were given the option to come back?
Yeah, and I don't know if Debbie mentioned that, where they showed her what she'd be doing or who she'd be helping. I know I've heard that from mediums mention that before, that have had those NDEs.
Yeah. Where you are given a choice, and then they can show you stuff just in the same way that, as a medium, I can see the different options that here's your nexus point, or here's where you are right now while I'm doing the reading, and here's the choices that you're going to have, but I know which one you're going to pick.
Okay.
Right. But there still are, multiple choices. So if at that nexus point you come out of your body because you had a heart attack and they're working on you, they can show you, well, this here is the option where right now where you're going to die and pass over. But here was the other path. So I do agree with that because it hasn't come to pass yet. So yes, there are different options and choices. It's just that there is only one that comes to pass in real time. See, it's hard on the head, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think when you're showing the potential you have and what you can do, that's the incentive to get you to go back, right?
Yeah.
Bitcat writes, hello, Sam and Rudy. Around 20 years ago, out of the blue, I started having very deep and intense experiences where I could connect with trees, see people's auras, feel energy, and almost see the source of life by staring into a candle. It was amazing and life-altering at first, but it completely derailed me and scared me for a long period of time after. I have come to understand more of what happened as time has gone on and would be interested to hear your interpretation of events. Thank you.
Well, like I said before, I do think that there's a lot of people here in our group, and I was told that there's going to be people drawn to our group who have experiences that I've never had before. Because, let's face it, as a medium, that would just be too much for me. For me getting information to be able to connect people with their loved ones and to see the future and worldwide predictions and have knowings and stuff like that. But then on top of that, to be able to talk to trees and, staring into you know what? Good, Big Cat. I'm glad you got that because it would be too much for me to have all of these gifts that are available. But it's so awesome to hear that, this is exciting to me because this is what I was told. There are going to be people joining this group who have these gifts and abilities, and they're going to grow. And so before you were afraid, but now that you're with us, you're not going to be afraid. And then what's going to happen is that you're going to level up and you're going to start, if it stopped happening, it's going to start happening again. But this time you're not going to be afraid.
Yeah, in fact, the tree hugging was one of my topics we didn't get to tonight. But we did. I think Green Meadow shared a story early on back in May in one of the early psychic meetups. I think that was when Mickey was doing it, and she talked about her communicating with trees, and that's what I was wondering: is the ability to communicate with trees a specific gift, or is that kind of within those Claire abilities?
I do think that it includes Claire abilities, but that is really a special gift. If you're talking to the trees, and I wouldn't be surprised if you would see things like, I call them elementals.
Yeah.
So like the gnomes and fairies
Gnomes and fairies,
these
yeah.
things that are in between, like Mothman is one of the in between. But a little bit more, I refer to Mothman as more like the creatures in between. So they're not necessarily evil, but I'm not thrilled with them. They are almost like watchers. It's almost like they're just hanging out here, and that's why they gather wherever there's going to be a natural disaster. Because they just are, they're like, how you tune in on the TV.
Yeah.
Like 9/11, we all had our TV sets on, and we watched the plane. I watched that plane hit the second tower, and I'm sure that the Mothmen were there too.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and BitCat, I want to say it was like, because I looked at this earlier, the May 11th psychic meetup from 2019. If you scroll down through the crowdcast, you should be able to find that. And we talk about trees in that one. All right, Hummingbird writes, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. I usually see white or yellow orbs. Now I am seeing orbs in a very colorful purplish blue. Can you tell me who this might be? The color is so beautiful. Thanks again to both of you."
Well, those are spirits, people who've crossed over from the other side, and they're showing themselves to you, these little balls or orbits.
Yeah.
So we talked before about how Linda saw a bright ball of light, and how that can be one of us, because we're spirits and we're in this realm. But there are people on, like, are part of your family who will cross over, and they'll show up as balls of light. And usually they're colorful and beautiful, and they make you feel safe and happy. So it's part of your tribe.
Interesting. All right. Charlie.24th writes, "My husband insisted and forced the sale of our home that I was very attached to, and 6 months later, I'm having a very difficult time getting over it. It's made worse by the problems we're having getting the remodel done on our new fixer-upper house. Do you see anything that can give me any hope? Any words of advice from the other side that I need to hear to help me get through this? I've got overwhelming feelings of loss and despair. Thank you."
Well, the home is not the building, it's the people in it. So you just need to focus more on your husband, and if you have any children, your family, and make a home there, and try not to listen to him next time if he's trying to get you to sell a house that you're very happy with. I mean, I try not to get attached to buildings. I would love to be back in my home on the plate, like, that I used to live in before I came here. But I'm feeling no, because, there's a lot of things that wander around in there. And so it's like, I understand what she's feeling, because, I miss my home, but I cannot be there for a different reason. Not because any of these things they don't bother me.
Right.
God, I'm used to them, right? I'm like, whatever. And I tell my son as well, listen, and no matter where you go, these things are going to be there. You have to learn you are stronger than they are. And they're just attracted to you because you're a light worker, and they see you 10 miles away, and they happen to hang out in that area. So they're going to bother you. But I get it, because I miss my home as well. But I keep telling myself, the home is where the family is, and it's where we go together. And we have to try not to be too attached to our stuff, because it's all going to be gone someday anyways.
Yeah. I think my parents still live in the house that I was born in and grew up in. And I always thought I could never let go when they, eventually when they move on. And now I've kind of put past that, it's just a house, and it was great that they've lived there their whole lives, but one day it will be time to let it go. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't let them try to push it off onto you. You have to keep our house. You can just nod in the nursing home. Sure, mom and dad, here, sign the papers.
Still
sign
here. Yeah.
the paper. Here's a pen. And then for sale. Right?
Sean writes, "Hi Rudy and Sam. Do you have any information on what physical state we are in on the other side, or do we progress to being light beings? I'd love to know. P.S. You guys rock. It's great how seamless this meetup is and how it flows very naturally. Love listening to you both. Thanks, Sean."
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I love showing up for it. You guys are great to hang with. We are balls of electricity, but we can change our form anytime. So, when I see like I remember doing a reading for one person and I told them that I saw their dad. They were just like, "Do you see my dad?" And I said, "I think so." I said, "Why is he wearing a sweater?" I said, "He's pointing to me. He's got like this big sweater on." And she was like, "Oh my God, he was always cold all the time. And he always wore like these big sweaters, even like in the house." So like that was his thing to let her know. But I mean, he's actually just a ball of light, but he was able to change his form and show me what he looked like in this life. And even with his heavy sweater on, which I had a knowing. It's like you see something, but then you also have a knowing. So that's why I talked about the sweater.
Okay.
Right, that he was wearing, because it was almost like this woolly sweater, and I was just like, "Oh my God, what he's doing with that sweater on?" But that was to let her know that. So yeah, that's our form on the other side. We're balls of light, and we all hang out together. And like that's source. Source is like when you see it, and it's like the brightest light in that you've ever seen when you're coming from the earth realm and you're crossing over, and you see like the light. That's all of us over there.
Oh,
all the
neat.
ones who've gone, like that's where the light is coming from, us.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sean also writes, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. I continue to see shapes and colors when I close my eyes and get buzzing in the ears. This is the norm, but what surprised me is a lack of sleep I now get. But I'm nowhere near as tired as I used to be. But I'm waking up in the small hours since I've been with this group. Have you both experienced things like this? I have so much energy. Thank you both."
Well, we're all leveling up and we're getting more energy from that. And like I said, a lot of people are experiencing gifts they've never experienced before, stuff that they've experienced in the past that they were fearful that it went away. Now it's coming back. They're not fearful anymore. The buzzing in the ears, that's a vibrational thing, especially where you're seeing the colors as well. So this is all part of your abilities and your gifts. And a lot of people are like, "Well, why? Like, this is not useful to me." And it's like, well, just wait and see. Just wait and see. I mean, I wasn't acting like a medium when I was 14 years old. I mean, it takes a while. You have to develop your gift and then figure out what it is you're going to be using it for.
Well, and I think we talked about this maybe several months ago, but you might find that people, as your vibration rises, you are sleeping less, you have more energy, you might be eating less, you don't need what you used to do. So that, Sean, I think is a key indication that your vibration is going way up, and it's from being part of this group, is what a lot of us have experienced. So,
yeah, I'm looking forward to the eating less part.
I haven't got there yet.
Summer coming. I was running, right. I was like, "Oh, keep going. I know you want to throw up, but keep going because summer's coming." And
Yep.
we're doing a whale tour thing. I think it's in 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But I got to put my scuba suit on. So, and I haven't worn that for a few years. That'll be interesting.
All right. Never Give Up writes, "I have heard stories about psychic and mediums' ability to absorb someone else's illness and then becoming sick for a few days due to negative energy. Now, the question is there an ancient ritual or spell or soul contract if one wants to accept someone else's sickness or karma? Thank you."
No. And this soul contract stuff, yeah, don't listen to any of that. That's all made up. Soul contract. Making stuff up. I bet you it's somebody who accepted money from you soul contact.
That's yeah, I think from what I've seen, Never Give Up is that, it's really the energy. If someone is healing or doing something and they don't protect themselves or they don't go about it the right way, you can get that energetic connection, and it's just energy, right? It's just moving from one person to another. So it is possible to take that on. So you just have to, again, it's one of those things. If that's your gift, you will learn how to develop that ability to protect yourself, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to who has spirit guides,
Mm-hmm.
these are the people who work in the healing arts or who have who work as mediums, or who are mediums. They may not work as a medium yet, but you would have spirit guides, and I won't say their sole purpose, but their main purpose is protection.
Yeah. Like I think Barefoot Doc mentioned she finally saw her guides as she was working on somebody, and that when you are doing your work, they will show up and help you. That's for sure. All right. Sweet Home Chicago, right? Totally new topic. Have humans actually landed on Mars, or did we leave Mars for Earth? Many thanks.
Mars. Okay. So ancient aliens have landed on Mars.
Okay.
So the ones who've passed through the realms, who've been in our solar system, they've landed on the moon, they've landed on Mars. I mean, they have spacecraft, so they can go wherever they want, right? But we as humans have not made it to Mars, not anytime, even in the ancient past. There may have been humans who went with aliens who would have had that offer made, because I was just saying that, and then the people on the other side were showing me. They were like, oh, don't forget about Ezekiel.
Yeah, I was going to say Ezekiel.
Yeah, don't forget about him.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he left with the spaceship and got to see all of that stuff.
So there's no colony of humans on Mars then that are hanging out.
No, there's no colony of humans on Mars. Ezekiel isn't from the Old Testament. Yeah, there was a story about Ezekiel in there. I don't know, was Ezekiel a prophet or just a man of God?
I don't know the story, but yeah, I just know that we've talked about that before. I think about him him going up and seeing the earth from above, that kind of thing. And you did say that was real. They took him up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. May writes, hi, Sam. I've been feeling very restless, even irritated, but not sure why. Can you see what I need to do? Thank you.
Restless and irritated. Oh, that sounds like me every day now. Irritated. Get away from me. What are you doing? No, I'm still doing this reading, and I'm going to blab everything. Y'all can't stop me, right? Because you get irritated. The negative entities that try to feed off your fear and anxiety. If you don't have any fear and anxiety anymore, right? Because this smile on my face, this spring in my step, this is not fake. Like, I really am, happy, easygoing, in a good mood most of the time. But listen, I can get my bitch face on just like the rest of you, right? But it's usually against like downright evil, right? Yeah. Then the sword comes out, right? So, so if you feel restless and irritated, you may be dealing with some gifts, and before you know that you have it, a lot of times the negative entities will know that you have it, and they will start to pile on you a little bit. So again, what you have to do is just talk to source about it and ask for protection. Talk to your family members who've passed over. Like, sometimes I would ask my dad for help because I know that he's around all the time. And I'm like, hey, Dad, can you take care of that for me, please? They're just really bugging today. Just handle them. Because I got a reading to go to here, and I'm making a cup of tea, and they keep showing me how, like, this, how Blackie chased me down the lane and scared the bejesus out of me when I was like, 5 years old. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they do, is you're just standing there, and then all of a sudden you remember something that you hadn't remembered at all, but it was a really scary thing. So they want to try to create anxiety in me as a medium. And I know what it is. I'm like, okay.
I get a lot of those too. Like, I'll think, what could happen if, oh no, what if this happened? And it's just, I try not to dwell on those thoughts because, I find recently it's been popping into my head a lot. And, it's like, okay, no, it's not going to happen. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Cause I remember talking to Mickey about that, where he was realizing he was a medium. And I told him, I said, the attacks are going to up. like any like negative word anyone said to you ever in the past, they'll whisper it in your ear and they'll remind you about it just to try to raise your ear. Grr, I can't remember. I can't believe they talked to me like that. I was such a good friend. And then you have to stop yourself and go, okay, where did that just come from? Because that thing happened 15 years ago. It shouldn't be on my mind anymore. This is the world we live in. My parting with them when I left that job was under good circumstances. And if I saw them on the street today, I wouldn't spit on them. So why am I thinking that thought train? Well, it's because you have gifts that are going to help humanity, and the negative entities, they don't want it. So I think that that's probably the most important information that I can pass on to people is do not beat yourself up for that. That is coming from another place. They try to use your mind against you, but you can push back and you can do what I call a mind block.
Yeah, that's why Crypto Freudian says, when Mickey? Have you heard from Mickey in a while?
Oh, he thought he was coming back. Like, I'll be back in September, October. I was like, I don't think it'll be before even January, Mickey. I was like, I said, do you have stuff like piled to the ceiling in your basement? And he was like, yes. And I was like, yeah. I said, were you like a little kid? You were in some postal store sending some stuff, doing like trying to get all of this stuff off your plate. I said, and then you got in your car. I said, and then I saw you on Discord talking to people. And he was like, yeah, he goes, it's so distracting. Right. And I said, well, you got to take care of your business. So that's, everybody's timing. You can see how people step forward and they do their job. And sometimes it's just for a short time. Sometimes it's for a long time. And a lot of people ask me, well, what are your plans, Samantha Jane? And I'm like, I know in the short term what my plans are, but I have an open mind as to where I'm going to be heading and who I'm going to be heading with. But I know this Discord channel was started for a reason.
All right. We got a couple questions left. We're almost here at the bottom of the hour. So last one's, Silver Spirit has a couple questions. Hi, Sam. Why are angels manifesting or appearing with wings? They would not actually need wings, would they?
No. They do not need wings.
But that's just how they show themselves?
Well, it's part of, you can hear the sound of the wings when you're in heaven. It's like this sound. It's almost like this very comforting sound. The wings, the sound of the wings. It just is. It's just when things are created. But I mean, angels can appear without wings. Angels can even make themselves look human. They can walk into the Publix and... and be standing next to you and, looking at various medications and striking up a conversation with you for a reason. And that is an angel.
Okay.
Yeah, that can happen too.
Very cool.
Yeah,
all right. Silver Spirit.
Cover.
Gary writes, do you guys know anything about psychic ability being affected by microdosing psychedelics, such as mushrooms? Might it improve or hamper one's ability?
Oh, well, anything that eats away at your brain matter, like using drugs and also excessive alcohol. I would have to say that anyone who's a medium who's consumed a lot of alcohol since they were a teenager, and if they're, let's say, my age, I actually didn't really drink any alcohol until I was like in my mid-30s. So I was like, well, thank God for that, because whenever when they were trying to figure out what was going on with my stomach, I would have like all these tests and everything on my organs. And they would be like, oh, you have like, they look at your numbers and stuff like that. Oh, you have the kidneys of a 16-year-old but it's the same like with your brain cells. If you're going to do stuff that's going to degrade your brain cells, and you have to remember when you're like a medium, you're playing 4D chess and Pictionary at the same time. Plus you're talking to the person to elicit more information. So you got a lot of balls in the air.
So it's just like with whether it's the flu or your gifts, keep your instrument in tune, eat healthy, do the best you can, and don't mess with that other stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Last two questions. May says, how can we prevent or cure ourselves from being attacked energetically?
Well, a lot of it has to do with your thought train. So again, and it's especially bad for people who are developing their gifts, because the negative entities will try to attack you with your own mind. So you have, and that it's so easy just to recognize it as soon as it starts happening and then stop. stop allowing them and just say, oh, nice try. What, really? You're going to try that again, are you? And you laugh and make fun and, make a joke out of it. So that's one way that you can do it. And the other thing too, like we were just talking about, keeping yourself in tune, because then you're not as likely to be, beating yourself up, right?
Yeah.
If you're distracted because, you're, really you're having health problems and things like that, or if you're just drunk every day, this is going to be a problem. So, I don't think there's anyone here though who has those types of problems, because we're all working together to level up. And I think that everybody here knows really how to do that.
And I think it's a mental game too. I found that, last year I was just so ready to be done with work and retire. And I was in this negative mindset. And it's like, okay, you got to flip that around and be positive. I'm thankful to have a good job that pays well and I have benefits. And when it's time for cryptos to come in and me to retire, I can do that. But when you can really get yourself in a spiral. So it's a big mental game.
It's going to be great. See you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye for now.